Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ashley and I'm the owner of Nichole Co, where we're spreading joy and mental health acceptance through my handmade goods. Today is another episode of Mental Health Mondays and I am very excited for today's episode as well. Thank you guys if you watched the first video. It was just kind of a very short video. I think it was only like 7 minutes, just an introduction, and that video ended up being a lot shorter than I wanted it to be. I thought it was going to be a much longer intro and deep dive into kind of my history with mental health, but I decided to break it up. And it also took me a while to get some things situated with that video. I was having a lot of issues like with space and storage on my computer and from my phone. And so by the time I got it up, I was just ready for it to be up and I was kind of over everything for the day. So that's why that was a little bit longer. But I have some notes up on my computer screen over here just for me to kind of follow some bullet points of this video because I can talk forever and go off topic. And also, if you see me kind of looking down a bit too, my son is supposed to be taking a nap and he is just being a wild child in his crib. So I just kind of keep looking at him, making sure he's good. So if I have to stop at any point, I'll end up coming back and finishing off this video. But of course, you guys won't see it because that is the magic of editing. Today's video is going to be all about mental health triggers and how we can kind of cope with those, or any techniques and tricks that I have learned along the way. And I just want to preface this video by saying that I am not a doctor. I am just someone who has been working on and worked through a lot of things in regards to my mental health over the last, oh my goodness, probably like 15 years or so. And I'm still growing and I'm still learning things every single day. Your mental health is something that will be continuously changing with you. And it's something that continuously needs to be nurtured and worked on. So by all means, me listing off things that I've done or any ideas that I have for you all is not saying that this is going to fix everything and it's going to be all good. I highly recommend, just doing what you can. If you have the ability to go to therapy as well, but just know it's something that's always changing. So it's not going to be an end all where this just works. We'll start off this video by just giving you a little bit of insight on triggers and what is a trigger for your mental health. A stimuli or event that can cause an emotional or mental response, often linked to past experiences or trauma. And some of the most common triggers are certain people or places, conversations, or even specific times of the year. I myself deal with triggering situations not as often as I used to, but it was something that I dealt with for a very long time. Some of my first really big issues with my mental health and things that I realized had an effect on me was my relationship with food. I was always a chunkier kid. I was always the bigger girl. I know that a lot of people in my life at the time, specifically my family, meant very well by everything that they were doing. And I know none of it was done in malice or was meant to have a bad effect, but some of it really did. Main one being I was on like Weight Watchers and different weight loss programs and diets from like the age of like 7. It was never presented to me as it being a diet or as it being for my weight. It was just kind of more of those, we can do these things together and it's kind of a fun game. But it did really have an effect on my mental space, especially when it came to me just being able to enjoy food and nourish my body. I was an emotional spender, which then caused me to not have any disposable income at all, and I really got behind on bills and things like that. I was evicted at one point from an apartment, and so that was really rough. I had been in very bad situations and relationships as well with very manipulative and verbally abusive people, and so that also didn't really help and really jumped into my emotional spending and a lot of my money issues as well, me being kind of the sole provider for these relationships when I didn't even have any money for myself. So there's a lot of things that would trigger me. Another big trigger for me is just stress. Stress in general is a huge trigger for my mental health. I am someone that I like to be the best at things, and so that really can get to your head when you kind of have that always sort of competitive edge going, and my competitive edge isn't necessarily I want to win at everything. I just like to be the person that people can count on. And so if I get off for even a day or a few hours and people cannot depend on me for that day, even if nobody has told me directly, I'm harder on myself and I am much worse of a critic on myself than other people are. Just an example of some of the triggers that I've went through in my life. It's been a true journey just figuring out how to navigate triggers, because you don't want them to take over your life, and you want to be able to learn how to move past those triggers. And even if you're not moving past them fully, being able to truly take a step back and say, okay, I know this is a trigger for me, but I know why it triggers me, and now I know how I can help myself in the situation when I'm feeling triggered, instead of just trying to say, well, this doesn't trigger me anymore and it's over, because sometimes it won't go away. It will always be a trigger. So, how do you identify your triggers? One of the biggest things that I will say is you really need to take a step back and look into every part of yourself when it comes to identifying what a trigger is. If you notice that you get very angry every single time something is done, or a specific term is said to you, or a statement, or something of that nature, sometimes it'll just be that's just a one-off event and it happened. But if it's repeatedly happening, you can most likely put that down as a trigger for yourself. Self-reflection is really important. And one of the best ways to self-reflect is by either journaling or seeking assistance, particularly in therapy. And I have tried many forms of therapy. I've went to therapy in person, which is totally fine, but I am personally someone that likes to be in my own comfortable space in therapy, and I like to feel comfortable, so virtual therapy has changed my life for the better. I did try BetterHelp at one point. I will say it was quite expensive, and therapy is not cheap, and so I kind of took off because that was me trying it on my own, and I did not have the funds to continue with the BetterHelp subscription and all of that went through. At my previous position, therapy was an included benefit in our benefits, and most insurance will cover therapy up to a certain amount. Sometimes it's fully covered, but at mine we had a completely separate app that was included as well, and it was called Talkspace. And so I've used Talkspace for the last couple of years and I've absolutely loved it. The only thing was that with my job, you could make up to 2 appointments a month and they were 30 minutes apiece. I don't think 30 minutes per therapy session is enough for me personally. I like to have a full hour. So while that was included and I was not paying for anything, I was just taking 2 a month at 30 minutes and it was fine. But now I pay out of pocket for my own therapist. I'm still searching for the perfect one, and that's something I will tell you guys again and again. It takes time to find a therapist that you like and that you trust and that you feel is understanding you, or you like their method of therapy that they provide the best. And so do some research and really look into it if it's something you're interested in. Most of the time, therapists will allow a free session for about 30 minutes or so. Sometimes they're 10, 15, sometimes they're 30 minutes to an hour. Those will really help you kind of get a little introduction to them, feel it out. Sometimes it takes a meeting or two where you have a full hour of space to understand whether or not you're going to mesh well with that therapist. But just something that to know is look up and see if they have consultations, because that normally doesn't cost anything additional. One of the ways that I have taken to kind of uncover outside of just therapy is reflecting and journaling. So I, up until recently, have been just filling in my notes app, and I still do this a lot. Whenever a thought comes to my mind, if it is a thought that happened after a certain event or a trigger or some sort of issue that I am trying to uncover, then I will just open up my notes app in my phone, and right in that moment while I'm feeling it, I will just type out what I'm feeling. And I will save it as a note, and I'll just put the date on it, and I'll put what I'm feeling exactly, and I'll, whether it's bullet pointed in sentences, it doesn't have to be formatted, but so long as I can understand what it's saying and what that meaning is behind it, that's what's important. So I'll jot things down there. Then I will come home and I will journal, and I will fully journal. And I was digitally journaling for a while. I keep messing up the word journal. It is like a tongue twister for me for some reason. But I was digitally journaling for a while, and then I wanted pen and paper. And so I am still searching for I want a pretty journal to get started. And I know which one I'm going to buy too. So once I buy it, I'll show it to you guys. But I know I wanted just a pretty journal to be able to really track my thoughts down in, to doodle in, to do as much as really want, and make that something that can be self-reflection. So you can look back on those journals and say, when was the last time that I felt like this? And when was the last time that I got triggered by this? I remember sometime last month I got triggered by it. And you can pull that open and go, oh, okay, this is when. One of the perks of digital journaling is that you can actually like categorize based on what apps you're using, or if you're in like Good Notes or something like that, which is what I was using before. You can create different journals. So a journal that is labeled anger and a journal that is labeled sadness, and you can go through that process of putting them in sections, so that way it's easier for you to jump into, and you can say, okay, I was feeling really sad one day. Let me go into my sadness journal because I kind of want to look back on that and see what happens. But journaling has been such a huge game changer for me, and how I really reflect and learn about my triggers, even if I didn't think they were triggers before. I wanted to go over some techniques like mindfulness techniques and grounding techniques, and just different ways you can help yourself work through your triggers that are there. So I'm going to keep kind of looking over to the side here, and maybe I'll put them up on the screen, but that way you can see. The first one is deep breathing. So something that I tend to do quite a lot, and is necessary a lot, especially when I am very stressed or overwhelmed, or I hit a chunk of task paralysis, which I get quite often. I need to take a moment to take a step back and just breathe. I will sit with my legs up and I will lean back in my chair as far as I can. This one goes back pretty far. And I will just take a second to breathe. Breathing in and out, really focusing on my breath. Box breathing is very helpful. So, count to 4 in and out each time, things like that. Meditation is very important as well. I meditate quite often. I kind of start off my day and end off my day with a little meditation. I will sit up directly in my bed as soon as I get up in the morning, because normally my husband is either still asleep or he is up because he goes to the gym quite early. So if he's not in the bed, I will just sit there in the bed. But if he is in there, I will normally get up and come into the office here, and I will just sit down in silence, and I will just breathe in and out. Sometimes I'll turn on like a binaural beat or some calming lo-fi music or something of that sort, so that I can sit and just relax. Focus on relaxing, focus on releasing yesterday's problems, focus on bringing good energy into today. And it's been super helpful for me. So if you've never tried meditation, you should definitely do it. And if you want more guided meditation, there are so many apps out that are both free and paid that can help you with meditation. Another mindfulness technique is focusing on an object. If you are ever really stuck or you can't get your mind off of a place, stop, take a deep breath, and focus on something in the room. Like my phone case, for instance, which I'm recording on right now, it's pink and orange and there are white flowers. Sit and say that to yourself. You can say it out loud or you can say it in your head. Notice that it is an iPhone and it has a pop socket on it, and it is orange and it is yellow and it is pink and there are white flowers, and it is smooth in texture, and I have a phone charm on it that sometimes look like flowers and other people think they're eggs. Like, and you can go down and just kind of do descriptive talk, whether it's out loud or to yourself, and that will really kind of help you clear your head for a moment. It's very helpful. I used to think it was very silly, to be totally honest, and I thought, "Oh, I'll never sit there and describe an object. Like, what is that going to do for me?" But sometimes just taking a moment to sit and stare and focus on something else really is helpful. Taking a moment to just visualize yourself in whatever is your peaceful situation, whether that's you sitting on a beach, whether that is you in a specific room of your house because that's helpful and you're not home, whether that is you out at a specific place that brings you joy. But visualizing that is something that is very, very helpful. Mindful listening is just listening to the sounds around you. So, like I said earlier, I love to turn on like a lo fi calming radio station on YouTube or listen to some calming music on Spotify. But having that sort of mindful listening is very helpful. And if you don't want to listen to anything at all, sometimes just going outside and taking a seat and listening to nature and just the sounds happening around you is really helpful. Maybe if you live in a busy place, it's not something you want to listen to, but if that brings you calm, then you can totally do that. Go out onto your balcony, sit down. If you hear the cars going and you're listening to the cars and you're listening to people chatting, or you live by a school and you're listening to the kids play, that can really bring you back down as well. But I tie that in with meditation because I tend to be doing kind of all of that while I'm meditating, while I'm just deep breathing, is I do multiple things at once. And that's one of the best ways for me to really come down, specifically if I'm having an anxiety attack. It's one of the easiest ways for me to ground myself and come back down. Speaking of grounding, there are many grounding techniques as well that are very helpful. One of the grounding techniques that I use a lot is just holding an object. So I'm someone that always keeps like a stress ball or something with some texture around it, fidget spinners, a little poppers. Those are my son's, but I take some for myself too. I should probably buy some for myself, to be totally honest. But poppers, anything like that. It can be a rock, a stone, a plant, an object that you have near you, but just kind of holding an object, feeling the texture, paying attention to that object. Again, it's all about mindfulness when you are trying to come down from these things. And so being able to really sit in the moment with it is very helpful. I'm just going to kind of read off some more grounding techniques that I wrote down, and I'll put them up here on the screen for you all as well. So, physical grounding, as in placing your feet firmly on the ground and focus on that feeling of stability, or holding on to a chair or a table to anchor yourself. Cold water or ice if you feel very stuck. Run your hands under cold water. Grab a piece of ice and put it in your hand. Focus on the feeling, and that sensation can help you snap out of any spiraling thoughts or any deep feelings that you're having in that moment. A breathing pattern. Like I said earlier, breathing is super important. So make sure that you are really taking the time to pay attention to your breathing. Pay attention to the way you breathe in and out. Count as you are breathing, anything to really help. Counting backwards is also a very helpful one. Count down from whatever number you need to. It makes you focus on it. Because we don't naturally count down backwards, it does make you stop to focus to make sure you have the correct number going one after the other. Using scents to help ground yourself is also one that's very helpful. If you have a specific scent that ties you to an experience in your life, sometimes putting that on will really help you clear your head and get into the moment that you would like to be in and get out of that stressful spiraling situation. So either lighting a candle or smelling a particular food flavor or anything of that sort can be really helpful as well. Those are just a few of the different mindfulness and grounding exercises that I use and that I know are pretty common. Some other coping strategies for managing your triggers would be establishing boundaries. Boundaries are very important. I really don't care what anybody says. It's important for you to have your own set of boundaries that you personally believe in or that do what's best for you, regardless of how that makes other people feel. If a boundary for you is that you do not have conversations about specific triggering topics, then you make sure that that is known to everyone around you. If a boundary for you is not having people come over to your house after a certain time at night because it throws you into a bad headspace based on previous triggers or a different experience that you had, that's something that is important. If a person specifically is a trigger for you, sometimes you have to set a boundary with those people. And so that's something that's probably the hardest thing with managing our triggers and our stress is creating boundaries for other people and for ourselves. But always remember that your mental health is the most important. And if you're not taking care of yourself, you cannot take care of anyone else or be the best person that you want to be and that you want to put forth and out into the world. Establishing boundaries, knowing what they are for you, and really making sure you are clear, concise, and open with anybody who needs to hear it is very important. Self-care is one of the most important things that you can do to really manage and help with any triggers that you feel. And so, one of the biggest things that I say is find things for yourself. In my own personal journey, I've talked about it a lot. One of my self care items that has really helped me has been starting this small business. So, before, I had no idea what I even liked anymore. I had let myself become consumed by any trigger that I had and all of my stress and anxiety, and that really threw off so much of me, particularly around the time that I had my son when I went through my postpartum depression, which is still something I kind of work through now. It's not gone, but it is definitely much better than it was when he was born. I had to find something to find myself and to feel like myself. After having a child, one of the biggest things is that you will not go back to being your old self. And it's a problem that I think a lot of people struggle with, but it's very much not talked about as often or as open as it should be. And so one of the biggest things that I did for myself was just finding things that made me happy. So crafting, one of the biggest ones was punch needling. And I don't know if it's just the act of punch needling, if it's the fact that I can mindlessly do it, unlike if I am trying to knit or crochet or anything of that sort where I really have to pay attention to what I'm doing. I can kind of punch needle and also watch TV and also speak with my husband and also have conversations, and it's so helpful to be able to do that. Get into some crafts, try different things. I love a paint by number. I actually have a couple that are back here because I just recently bought them from Five Below, and I'm going to use them for some artwork in my room. But paint by numbers, things like this are so helpful. Even if this one's not a paint by number, it's just you can follow the picture. It comes with the paints, or you can paint it on your own. It's something for you to focus on. It's something for you to pay attention to. See what it is that you like. If it's playing video games, I love a good cozy game. I love an Animal Crossing. I love oh my goodness, what is it called? Famicom Detective Club, anything mystery. I love a Nancy Drew game. I love reading, just things that are for yourself. And that sort of self care is so helpful. So make sure that you take the time out to discover what it is that you like and what it is that you want, and really try to push forward with that, because I guarantee you, when you start making time for yourself and really taking care of yourself, you will start to feel better in every aspect of your life. So that's really all I had to talk about on this video today. Triggers and being triggered is so common, and I just feel like it's something that sometimes is looked upon as if you are an outcast for feeling it. But if anybody is on TikTok at all, and you've learned from just seeing other people's posts, and if you watch any video that's posted on the internet, whether that's on YouTube or you're on Instagram, just social media in general, you will have noticed how many shared experiences we actually have. And so when we're in those moments of feeling like we are by ourselves and there is nothing that anyone will understand what we're going through, it's good to take a step back and remember that these are normal experiences. Everybody has a trigger. Some people have triggers that are worse than others, but that doesn't mean they don't have them. And so you are not off, or you are not strange, or it's not unusual for you to be triggered by things. So just accept the fact that they are there, but then learn how to really work on yourself and those triggers that you have, to make sure that you can feel as fulfilled as you want, and you can just lead a life of joy moving forward. I don't say positivity because I believe that positivity, like there's a limit to it. Like toxic positivity is a thing, and I don't believe in toxic positivity. Not everything will be positive. Sometimes overcoming a trigger will make us sad. Sometimes overcoming a trigger will make us very happy. Sometimes it will make us very apathetic. It just depends on what the trigger is, how attached it it is to us and how much it makes us feel in that moment. And so do not talk down to yourself and think that you are alone or you are on your own. There are plenty of people that are feeling this way, and it's okay to feel that way as well. Thank you guys for joining me today. I have had a good time talking about this. I've been talking for a while, so I'm going to go ahead and edit this video. This video is going up today. It is Monday. I had an issue uploading again with this video. You guys will see in the next studio vlog that I put out that we're really working on some organization and just kind of a reset for myself so that I can really get on board with things and get over some of this executive dysfunction that I have been dealing with lately. But again, thank you guys so much for joining me in this video today. And let me know down below, what are some coping strategies that you guys use, or grounding techniques, mindfulness techniques? What are some triggers that you guys have went through, just so that we can all connect and really open up that conversation. And I'm always here if anybody wants to talk. Feel free to send me a DM on Instagram. That's normally where you'll get a response the quickest. You can send me an email. My email is always linked down below. If you ever want to talk, I'm always here for you all. And I will see you guys in the next video that will be up on Thursday, and the next Mental Health Monday that will be up next week. Thank you so much, because I know we're at like 560 subscribers or something at the time of recording, and it makes me so happy to just see this community grow and to be able to have other people to connect with on here. I have found so many of you that I relate to, and that is one of the best gifts I could have ever received from starting this journey. So I will see you all in my next video. Like I said before, make sure you leave any comments or questions down below for me, or any of your experiences. Just share as much as you like and whatever makes you feel comfortable. And always remember that you are loved and cared for, and that you matter. And I will talk to you all in my next video. Bye.